Okay, so I have been trying to figure out how to change my fuel injectors in my 2003 R6. I searched YouTube, couldn't find anything to do with changing out your fuel injectors. So, as you see, I have a 2003 R6 right here. Basically, I've got it stripped down. I've had to take my seat off, my rear seat, to get my tools, my little Allen set. Now, the first step is you got to take off your gas tank, or you can lift it up and mess with it. Personally, for me, I like to take it all the way off. That way it's not in my way. To do this, you see these two bolts right here. You unloosen those, take them out, and then you got another bolt right here. Take that bolt completely off, and your gas tank will come right up. Now, up underneath your gas tank, that's where you got your hoses and your connectors and your sensor connectors, so you got to undo those before you can actually lift off your gas tank. So, give me a minute. I'm going to do that real quick, and I will show you exactly what else you need to do. Okay, as you can see here, I've already broken this one loose. It comes right out. I'll take that one, and if you can see, I gotta unloosen that a little bit more. This will come out. And then this one will come out as well. Now, this is how you basically take off your gas tank to get to the fuel injectors, which are up underneath here in your air body. So, give me a second. In order to unloosen those, what you're going to need is a 10mm socket. I use a socket and a extension. Doesn't have to be a big extension, but that pretty much is it. Once you lift up your gas tank, you're going to see you're going to have a bunch of connectors you got to take off, and your hose, your gas line, you got to disconnect it and things like that. So I'm going to go ahead and do that next, and then I'll restart the video. Alright, as you notice, like I said before, I've got my two bolts out of the top. I got my bolt out of the rear of the gas tank. Now, here's the thing. Some people like to bungee the tank up, and they'll hook it back here to your bar to keep your gas tank held up. Myself, I personally use a long extension bar. If you can see this, I can just put it down here at the end, and then of course I put it up here so it helps stabilize the gas tank. Now, the connectors I was talking about, you'll have a green and a white one. The green one will go on the back right here, and then this white one right here will go to the front. Now, the white one, of course, is easier than hell to get off. You can take it off right here, and then of course you pop your green one. Now, the only other thing I have to do now is I got to remove this gas hose and this gas line right here. This gas line can be a little tricky because you got to press in the tabs, and it's kind of hard because it doesn't give you a whole lot of room up underneath the gas tank to get it. So, but if you can remove that, that's pretty much it. Remove your hose. You're gonna have some gas seepage. Make sure your tank is kind of empty before you do try this, or you're gonna have gas go everywhere. And I personally don't like to get gas under my under in here with all my wires and stuff like that. So, all right, give me a minute. I'm gonna disconnect this and get it going. Okay, so as you can see, I got my gas lines off and everything like that. This is the one that's a pain in the butt right here. You gotta push in those two little gray tabs, push them in, pull it off. And then this one, of course, you just remove this clamp down and this slides off like that. Next step is to get to your fuel injectors, which are right here, all this down in here. you're gonna have to take off your air box. Basically, take off your air box, you gotta remove this screw, and then each one of these right here. And then the top will pop off. You'll have your air filter underneath it. I would suggest while you're at this stage to go ahead and clean your air filter. I have a K&N air filter, so basically I spray it down with this oil cleaner. I rinse it, let it dry for about an hour or until it's completely dry. Spray the oil on, then I'll put it back all together. But that's pretty much it. I am going to now remove this part of my air box, take this off, take out my air filter, and then I'll get down to the bottom and you can see the worst part of the whole situation. Okay, as you can see, I've got all the screws unloosened. So basically, you just grab a hold of it and it should pop right off as it did. There's my K&N air filter underneath. I will get that here in a minute. Okay, so I grab this. I'm gonna take this, and basically all I'm gonna do is I'll just set it right down inside my air box, as you can see. Now here's the inside of your air box. You can look down inside, and this right here are basically the insides of your fuel injectors. Now what I'm gonna do is, if you can look right underneath here, okay, you see these little screws right there. Okay, those screws are what you're going to have to unloosen on every one. There's 4. There's 2 here, right there, 2, right back in there, and there's 2 right there. You're going to have to take those, unloosen those because they have clamps. You got to unloosen them, and then this box right here will pop right off. Okay, but you've got to make sure those are unloosened, because if you don't have them unloosened, then you're going to run into more problems down the road. All right, to get those screws loose, the ones I was talking about right there, you're going to have to use a number 4 or H4 little Allen wrench. I basically just use it on my Craftsman screwdriver. It's the easiest way. Can't really get an Allen wrench down in there. I learned that the first time I tried doing this. Now, once you get those unloosened, there's other couple other things you're going to have to unloosen. You're going to have to take off this hose clamp. You're going to have to take this sensor right here. This is going to be plugged into right here. So you basically have to just disconnect it. Okay, you have a clamp right here that's connected. You're gonna have to disconnect. No, my bad. You're not gonna disconnect that. Oh, which one is it? Oh, it's these up here into your air box. Basically, right here, loosen this, loosen that one, and then there's this right here. Gonna have to pop these loose. So basically take this clamp, move it, and you have another one right down in there. If you can see it, yep, it's right there. Right there, you're gonna undo that. Once you undo those, then you can lift out your remaining of your air box. So I'm gonna pause the video, I'm gonna do it, and then I'll show you exactly what I took off. Okay, as you noticed, I've already got this one unloosened. I've got this unloosened right here. And I've already got my hose right here, the clamp off the hose. And then same with on this side, I've got the clamp right here off of this hose. Now the only other thing you've got to worry about is make sure you have this clamp down so you can pull this hose off. And then you got this little sensor right here. You got to just pop that out and put it over here on the side. Just like that. Now everything should be disconnected from my air box. Only other option is just to take this hose, pull it off just like that. Now you just got to lift up your box. Okay, so basically these are the 2 hoses I told you had to remove the clamps off of, And then here's the sensor, the one I told you that you had to disconnect. Now, basically, that is your fuel injector assembly. Now, it's disconnecting all this other stuff down through here, and I'm gonna go over it one by one with you so you can see what you're actually gonna have to disconnect. You're gonna have to disconnect these little sensors right here. If I can get it down in there, I'll show you. Disconnect these sensors. There's 4 of them right there, and the other one's right there, and then you got one more, which is right there. Underneath this, you can see it right there. Disconnect those, and then basically there's a couple more little clamps that you're gonna have to get to, but you can't get to them until after you disconnect everything. Also, you want to make sure that you disconnect your other side of your gas hose right here. All right, I'm gonna disconnect all of them, then I will restart it. All right, so here's what I've done so far. If you notice, I've disconnected all these from my fuel injectors, my connections, and if you see, I've labeled each one of these 1, 2, 3, and 4. That way you know 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's how they connect. Basically, it's found that the easiest way. Now, once you get all that undone, make sure you do take this little part off. You got to unscrew it because you're going to have to take this hose right here and disconnect it. But that basically it goes right there. Now the next step, after you get all that done, you got to come down here and you got to take off this little side piece on your fairing. Basically 2 screws, 3rd one here, take it out. That way you can get up in here to your throttle control, unloosen these nuts, and you should be able to back that out and pop these loose. Pop these loose, and then you can, you know, pretty much do what you got to do. I got a lot of play in that one. I know I shouldn't have that much play, so we got to readjust that. But I got a good slap back. For some reason though, it's really loose. All right, so basically that's it. I'm gonna come down here, loosen these 2 screws. That way I get my cables out of my throttle. And then once I get that done, I'll go up here and I'll finish disconnecting my gas hose line right here. And there's a couple other little connections that I'm gonna have to get done. And I can pretty much remove this whole piece right here. You can remove it. You gotta disconnect this, disconnect this clip, and then I'll separate everything. And then there's one other more clip, and it's all the way down in there, right there. You're gonna have to disconnect it, but you can do that once you get everything else unloosened. All right, I'm gonna get back to work. When I get done, I'll walk back through the process and show you exactly why I disconnected. Okay, so basically, if you look, I took the hose off of here, took it out because it just gets in your damn way. So I put that to the side. Here's my those clips I was telling you about, number 1 through 4. I took them off, put them to the side, and then also took off my gas hose right here and my gas line right here. Those are easy connections. The hose goes on this side, the line goes on this side. Disconnect it. Put a rag down in there because you are going to leak out some gasoline. Okay, now after that, the next step is there's going to be little bitty once again, clamps all the way down. And here, let's see if you can see it. You see that clamp all the way down in there? And that one right there? Okay, that right there is what you're gonna have to unscrew. Now this is the tricky part, because this is gonna have to use an Allen wrench unless you can get a screwdriver down in there. Unfortunately, I got big hands, so I can't get it, so I have to use an Allen wrench. Basically, all the tools you're gonna need is a 10mm socket with the extension, a H4 Allen head, a couple pair of pliers. I use needle nose and also use regular pliers, and also use a Phillips screwdriver. But other than that, that's basically it. I'm going to unloosen these clamps, and then I will show you exactly what I took off. Okay, so basically right there's the clamp I was telling you. You got to unscrew it. You got one more basically right there, and then you got another one that's all the way back in here right there, and then you got one all the way down in here right there. So you got 4 of them. It's going to use a number H3 or number 3 Allen wrench. Alright, one last thing you got to do before you lift it off. You got these 2 clamps right here, this one and then this one right here. You got to take both those off. Just remember, the small one goes to the far right. The one with this extra padding goes to the inside. So okay, so basically after you get it out, it's basically what it looks like. Just make sure you get all your connections. If you gotta change your gas lines and things, go ahead and change them now. If you gotta change your spark plugs, go ahead and do it now, because all you gotta do is lift this up and there's your coils. So if you need new coils, you can change them from here. Pretty much change a lot of things. The reason I'm changing my fuel injector is because I'm having a problem with it. Basically, when I am in like 4th, 5th, 6th gear and I'm cruising, I come up to a red light and I gotta start downshifting. I'll downshift and I'll pull my clutch and I lose all power. It's wanting to bog out a lot. So I'm trying to figure out why. I changed my fuel pump, fuel filter last summer, changed my spark plugs last summer, and it started happening towards the end of the summer. So I figured that there was this issue with my fuel injectors, so I bought a whole fuel injector, basically the whole top of the fuel injectors. I bought this one. I put this one on and my bike started sounding like really crap. So now I'm going to go back to the original one I had on and try to change probably a couple other things. I don't know if this one's just out of sync. I don't know what's wrong with it, but it obviously wasn't working correctly. One last thing I did forget to say is, when you do get ready to remove this, your fuel injectors, make sure that you pull your your throttle idle adjuster. Make sure you take this off the side of the bike. It just pops up and it comes right out. The clamps, like I said, the clamps go down on here, so you got to make sure, you know, it's right. But other than that, I don't know. I really honestly can't tell you what's exactly wrong with my bike, but I'm gonna start with little pieces and try to get it running right. So all right, well, I'm gonna go ahead and get everything changed, put back together, and then we'll fire it up and we'll see if it sounds any better. So all right, okay, so basically I've got my new fuel injector kit on. Once you get it on, you just got to make sure you tighten those 4 clamps up underneath. Those are very rough and tough. The two on the right go down, two on the left go up to tighten them. Just to let you know that. Once you get those tight, you want to do your throttle wires over here on the side again. So you can do these throttle wires right here. Make sure you get the make sure you get those in there really good. Double check your throttle. Come up here and it should pop back. You should hear that snap. If it's not snapping, then you're gonna have to adjust it up here on the top, right up and in here. Once you get all those connected,